It's time for Ask the Expert on CHOK. If you have a question for today's guest about their area of expertise, give us a call at 519-464-1070 or toll free at 1-866-464-1070. Send us an email or post on Facebook. It's time for Ask the Expert. Here's your host, Stephanie Shavs.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today for Ask the Expert. My guest in the studio with me, BDO licensed insolvency trustee, Melanie Murray. Good afternoon.
Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, how are you today?
Very good, thank you.
So I understand today we're going to be talking about, it's right around the corner, how to avoid holiday debt right before people start their ever so busy Christmas shopping. If you want to find out some more information about some of the things that we're going to be touching on this half hour, you can go online, debtsolutions.bdo.ca. The number as well, 519-337-5500. So, Melanie, a lot of people... The BDO sounds familiar. A lot of people are familiar with that. But first, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and BDO First Call Debt? What exactly is that?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Stephanie. I'm super excited to be here today to talk about two of my favorite things, Christmas and saving money.
Oh, I thought you were going to say debt. I'm like, how
No.
Okay.
I am, a little bit about myself. I'm a licensed insolvency trustee with BDO here in Sarnia. I grew up in Sarnia, and my husband and I live here, and we're very involved in the community. We have 3 kids, 3 teenagers actually, so we're pretty busy.
I got to meet one. Yeah. Take our kids to work day. It's here with you.
Yeah, and so I work at the Sarnia BDO office in the Kenwick building downtown. And I consider myself really fortunate because I thoroughly enjoy my job, helping people get back on track financially. And the BDO office, as I mentioned, downtown in the Kenwick building, lots of people have heard of BDO. I think it has pretty good name recognition, but we are one of Canada's largest and longest-serving debt solution firms. We have offices all across the country, and we pride ourselves on being heavily involved in our communities. And personally, I help people in the Sarnia and surrounding area.
Okay. Now, a little bit more about BDO First Call Debt.
Right. At BDO, we know that debt can really have an effect on people, personally, psychologically, professionally, and that's why our teams work really hard to help people leave their debt behind. And, there are so many different causes of debt, and it can be so stressful and emotional for people. It's usually brought on by a really challenging life experience. I think we can all, relate to different things that can happen in one's life that would see them accumulate some debt, whether it's a divorce or an illness or...
Often things that are unexpected.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
yep.
okay.
Yep, job loss, premature retirement, maybe even an addiction. There's so many different ways that people can find themselves in debt. And what we do at BDO is we offer a free confidential consultation to help you decide how you're going to manage your debt. And oftentimes making that first call is the hardest thing. So we just want you to know that we're here to help. We're here to listen and help find the solution that's best suited to your situation.
Now, as I mentioned off the top, we're kind of going to touch on avoiding holiday debt because 'tis the season.
Correct.
And there are just 41 shopping days until Christmas.
Oh, my goodness.
When you do the math, that sounds really close. So how do you ensure that you can avoid blowing your budget, you're not racking up debt, and seeing red long after the holidays are over?
Great question. So, Stephanie, before shoppers head out and, we're all in search of that perfect gift, and the first thing I think we should do is probably sit down and determine what we can actually really afford to spend. A lot of times we sort of overlook that. And so we want to start by looking at the amount of cash you have left after all your bills, after all your fixed expenses are paid.
The stuff you have to pay.
Have to pay. Yes,
you can't avoid it. Yes.
And so once you've narrowed that down, then you can figure out how much you've got to spend and actually set a budget. and try and stick to it. That's the tricky part. And I think when you're putting together a holiday budget, there's so many things to consider. I mean, we just often go to gifts, right off the top, that's the only thing that we've got to account for. But really, there are so many other unforeseen expenses that we forget about, such
like
as
if you're hosting a party.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I am in a couple of weeks,
Well,
so I've already thought of that. Okay.
Good. You're already thinking ahead. So, whether it's what you're going to bring as a hostess gift, or what your dish is going to be, or travel costs, because some people travel distances at home at Christmas time, so it's extra gas or train or even a flight for some people, or even the decorations, the tree, the lights. Inevitably, we get out the string of lights and one's burn out.
Doesn't work.
We go to Canadian Tire. So there's so many things that we have to remember to include in our holiday budget beyond the gifts even. It's interesting because there's reports that suggest that consumers should spend around 1 or 1.5% of their gross their family income. Okay,
so for the holidays.
That's right, on holiday spending. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you take a family, for instance, that might earn $60,000 as a family, that would suggest that they should spend between $600 and $900 a month. Or sorry, not a month, on just the holidays. Okay.
Okay.
So if we look at that holiday budget of $600 to $900, I have a sneaky suspicion that there'd be more spending than $600 to $900.
Yeah, I'm going to say that it's pretty easy to go above that amount for some people.
Absolutely, and what the polls are saying is that it's closer to $1,500, which is really double that, or 3 or 4% of a household income of $60,000. So it's no surprise, as you said, that shoppers are going over budget. And, there's, again, a few polls out there. The first one suggesting that the majority of Canadians admitted that their spending was actually out of control. So that's a bit scary.
When you use the words "my spending is out of control," how out of control are you talking, and how much are you really spending?
That's right. It's a bit alarming, and also concerning is that the majority of people almost expect to go over budget.
Really? Okay.
And 2 out of every 5 people admit they can't even really afford what they're buying, but they still feel pressure to participate.
To buy it.
Yeah.
Okay, so what tips would you give then to somebody when they're trying, because if they're admitting already, I'm going to go over budget, what tip would you give them to avoid going over budget, spending within their means, and not finding themselves in some serious debt after the holidays?
Okay, so first of all, we want to keep track of it, okay? It could be on your phone, on a little pad of paper, on a scratch note, whatever you want to do, you need to kind of keep track of it. We tend to, buy things, tuck them away, forget about we have them, so we've got to keep a tally of what we've already bought and what we've spent. And another tip seems pretty obvious, but get out there early. The earlier you get out there, the better the bargains are. You can price shop. You're not so pressured. The last thing you want to find yourself doing is being at the mall on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, because then you're spending more than you really want to.
Absolutely, and you're usually buying something someone doesn't need, or you're overpaying, or you're just a bit desperate. So not
and
using your best judgment.
as far as you said, is getting out there now. As I mentioned, it's 41 shopping days. 41.
Yes,
that's it.
Yes, big. So kickoff coming soon. I've already been seeing the commercials. So there's getting out early, keeping track. I mean, it's a little late in the year to suggest this, but maybe this is a point for next year. I know some people that are so diligent that they start in January, and from every pay they put $40 or $50 aside. I mean, that's
good
some real
for them.
disciplined budgeting. But really, because then they'd have, come Christmas, they could have $1,000 in a savings account to put towards it. But if you haven't done that, and you're just getting out there now and thinking about it, you'll want to probably count your paychecks or your pension checks or your,
how many you have from now until.
That's right.
Okay.
Because you can't expect that your December 15th pay is going to cover Christmas.
Right.
So if you can try and set aside a certain amount from each pay going forward, at least from now on, then you'll have some money set aside for that, because we know that a lot of Canadians are living paycheck to paycheck. So it's a struggle for people. And the last thing, we don't want people relying on credit to fund Christmas. So, BDO actually released what it called its affordability index recently, and what it was showing us was that 52% of Canadians, like I just said, are living paycheck to paycheck, and 3/4 of Canadians are carrying debt, and almost 1/3 said they're having struggles just meeting their basic needs. Okay, so again, more alarming statistics. I'm just trying to point out that, if we're already finding ourselves short on funds heading into the holiday season,
we don't want to make it any worse.
That's right, exactly.
All right, we're going to take a quick break right here. When we come back, we'll talk about some other ways that you can avoid finding yourself in debt right after the holiday season. If you have any questions or if you want to find out some more information, you can go online, debtsolutions.bdo.ca, or if you want to give BDO First Call Debt Solutions a call, 519-337-5500. We'll be right back with Ask the Expert on CHOK.
This is Ask the Expert. Now back to the studio.
Welcome back to Ask the Expert. In the studio with me this afternoon, BDO licensed insolvency trustee Melanie Murray. We're talking today about how to avoid holiday debt. If you want to find out some more information, you can go online at debtsolutions.bdo.ca. Before the break, we were just touching on some tips to avoid getting in the red right after the holidays. You mentioned one, shop early.
Yep.
Don't wait until the last minute, because at that point, that's when you're going to find a lot of people throwing stuff on their credit.
Yep.
Make a list and start setting aside some money. What other tips do you have for people to avoid?
No, you just said make a list. I mean, we can all learn a lesson from Santa. Make a list and check it twice, because it is possible to trim your holiday gift list without being a Scrooge. Okay, so I think maybe traditionally we've fallen into a pattern of buying for certain people, and perhaps it's time for a conversation. An honest, healthy conversation with a family member or friends, longtime friends, to say, why don't we forego the exchange this year? I think you might find them probably relieved, that you brought up the suggestion.
My family's doing that this year. We're only buying for,
Excellent.
We've got new babies.
Oh,
so that's
fun.
it, just for the kids.
Yeah, that's great. And, part of what I do at BDO is we provide credit counseling sessions, okay, to help people with their budgeting. And so I'm having some really interesting discussions right now with the people I help, and we're sharing information, and I'm just learning some really, super creative ideas, because when your finances are challenged, you can come up with some pretty great stuff. Someone suggested to me they'd put together a small decorative box, from Michael's or the dollar store,
right.
and they'd filled it with little note cards with memories, and that they were giving it to a friend.
Isn't that nice?
And it was more meaningful, less than $10. I mean, there's an example.
Right.
A photograph in a frame. Like, what grandparent doesn't love getting that?
It's the thought.
Absolutely.
And not
Absolutely.
exactly how much the gift costs.
Homemade gifts, homemade wine, cookie exchanges, things like that, potlucks. For the avid point collectors out there, try to resist the temptation to redeem throughout the year. Kind of stockpile them for the holidays, if you will, and then you've got that extra bit of buffer, to help with the groceries, if that's something you do. So those are some suggestions that hopefully will help. And, for the families that are really in deep, crisis,
right?
Because there's, this is the reality for some
Unfortunately,
families.
yep.
We have some wonderful organizations in town that are so helpful. The Salvation Army has its Christmas hamper just started running, and the Inn of the Good Shepherd is doing, of course, the food bank and whatnot. So there's some other suggestions.
Now, when we're talking about holiday entertaining, gifts, there's a lot, like you mentioned, there's a lot more than just shopping for presents. There's a lot that goes into the holidays, the parties, the events, all that. So how do you stay, for those people, how do you stay under budget and still avoid the, fear of missing out?
Oh, that's a big problem. Yeah, this is this is a new phenomenon to a certain extent, and there's no doubt as consumers we are really influenced by things like FOMO, the fear of missing out, and all the all the reality TV and things that, we're exposed to. We've already started seeing the commercials, and we're bombarded with emails, about Black Friday or the countdown to Christmas is on, and you're starting to almost feel anxious about it.
A lot of pressure.
And the FOMO reaches an all-time high during the holidays. We're seeing, pictures of people's parties and their gifts and their holiday trips, and we're certainly not seeing a picture of their credit card bill in January. That's what we're not seeing.
Right.
So is it reality or not? No. But so if that's the kind of thing that causes you to become anxious, there are experts out there that on that topic that would suggest maybe you need a little break, or disconnect for a little while just to tune out the noise. But really just be aware and keep perspective and don't feel that. Try to not feel the pressure to overspend. And it might be a good time to just touch briefly on gift giving for kids, because I think as parents, we always feel the tendency to overspend. And we're sort of becoming.
You mean spoil the kids?
Yes.
Is that what you're trying to say?
I heard someone call it the other day that we're the indulgent parent generation. So I don't know if that rings true with any of your listeners, and I'm not immune. I have 3 kids. I understand fully. You want to provide.
It's easy to do.
You want the kids to be happy. You don't want to disappoint. But by giving them everything on their list, what are we teaching them?
Right.
Like, they need some incentive to save. They need a bit of a reality check too, that you don't always get everything you want. So I don't want to sound harsh, but I think there's some really good lessons there from that.
Now, I know you touched on, don't throw everything on your credit card and get started. For those people who did get started early and they're like, oh, but I did put it all on my credit card.
Yeah.
How do they start paying that down now?
Yeah, they could for sure. And what we say is if you do need to resort to credit during the holidays, try not to put anything on there higher than what you can reasonably expect to pay off within 1 or 2 months.
Okay.
Because if you're going to, take 6 or 12 months to pay off your credit card from Christmas, you've just paid almost twice as much for that certain item, with the interest charges. Yeah. So, try not to do that if you can.
And what other tips would you give to somebody who already started that shopping? Like you mentioned, you've got it on the credit card. You're going to get your bill probably not till, I guess from now it would be, January.
Yeah, it could be January.
Is it a good idea to maybe make that payment before the bill even comes in?
Yeah, that's a super idea because, if you just get it out of your account right now, then you'll not be lulled into some false sense of security that you've got more money than you really have. Because when those bills pile up in January, that's when we see what we call the Christmas hangover and the holiday debt hangover, and by that point, it's a little too hard to overcome.
Would you, Melanie, recommend, I've seen a few of them now, and I know some banks even have them, apps on your phone that allow you to follow along with your spending habits. Do those really make a difference?
I think they do. I think it's a great way to help, pay down debt and just be so much more aware of your finances. There's some excellent resources online. For instance, even, BDO has some great worksheets and calculators on our website, as you mentioned, debtsolutions.bdo.ca. I have an app on my phone called Mint. It sends me little alerts if I've overspent in a certain category, which is, not always pleasant to receive, but it's always a gentle reminder. And
sorry to bother you, but
yeah. So there are some really great new resources because we're all, always seem to have a device not too far away. So, that's a great way to incorporate it into your daily living and just to be more aware. And it comes down to budgeting again. And I know it's sort of not the most exciting topic, but a budget is, once you see what's coming in and going out, then you can identify areas where you can trim and maybe free up some more money, to pay off the debt also. So
yeah, because we don't have those. Well, a lot of people don't have the checkbooks anymore, right?
Yeah,
where they
that's right.
kept track. So now you've got to find other ways to do it, and an app on your phone is a great way. Melanie, if someone wanted to come in and sit down with you and figure things out for their finances, how do they go about getting in touch with you?
Well, they can certainly reach out to us on the internet or by phone, 519-337-5500. And we'll be happy to schedule an appointment. I'm happy to help, my fellow Sarnia residents who are struggling. All it takes is one phone call, and we can typically get people in within 48 hours. And
perfect.
I feel if we can help one person in our community get back on their feet financially, then we can all benefit.
Perfect. Melanie, that's all the time we have for today. I'm so sorry.
No,
I'm sure we could keep going different ways to save money. If you want to find out more information, go online, debtsolutions.bdo.ca. That's all the time we have for Ask the Expert, and news is up next on CHOK.
You've been listening to Ask the Expert on 103.9 FM, 1070 AM, and online at chok.com. Ask the Expert is a production of CHOK, a Blackburn radio station. The opinions expressed during this broadcast are those of the guest expert and are not necessarily those of the parent company, Blackburn Radio. Any reproduction, retransmission, or rebroadcast in part or in whole without the expressed written consent of Blackburn Radio is strictly prohibited.